Okay, welcome everyone. Today we have an amazing story of success from a fellow coach that decided to niche down into a very specific market, which is smart consumer tech, and she helps startups grow and scale in that space. So let me give the floor to Anna from Startup Dials. Welcome on board. So what's your story?
Hi, Marcello. Thank you for having me. My name is Anna, and it's been recently that I ventured out to work on my own with the smart consumer tech startups, right, that are looking to, build brands, launch brands, and further grow and scale primarily in the US market. So my background, it's deeply rooted, let's say, in China, right? So I've been living in China since 2007, and it's been only a month or so that I moved to Spain, to Valencia, right? This is where we're tuning in from. All my life I've been working in sales and marketing, and past 6 years I've been dedicated to working with smart consumer tech brands, right? So primarily it was smart audio, high quality audio like headphones, and then further moving on to smart home and smart kitchen appliances. So what I've realized along this journey is that many of the founders, right, they're super excited about bringing new tech and new gadgets to our life, right? They're thinking about how tech can help us live better quality lives, right? But many of those founders, they're coming from the design and engineering backgrounds. So oftentimes, they have a great idea, they jump into actually executing, right, and building those products, only to realize that not necessarily the product sells, just because they've never validated their idea, never identified whether there's product market fit. And also what I like to talk about is the language market fit, right? So how do you communicate the value of the product that's you're bringing, product or service, in any case, delivering to the customer in order to further grow and scale. So this is this is my bread and butter currently.
Awesome. It must be exciting. Like I really love tech and to be helping these tech companies, tech startups. I mean, it's gotta be exciting. So what do you find the most rewarding part of it? Like what is like something that excites you when you do that?
Yeah, I think so. The thing is, why I like to emphasize that it's smart consumer tech is because in many ways, it's not only the hardware that you sell, right? But it's also the data that is behind the use of the
Mm.
product. And oftentimes, this is also what founders and the design engineering software teams that they forget about it. That there's actually a lot of value that is being derived from the data, from the use of their product, that you can further bring into your sales and marketing activities in order to once again better understand how your product how your product is being used, what customers like, don't like about it, and further improve, innovate based on it, as well as better communicate the value to the customer. And going back to what excites me the most is really it's a very long journey, to be honest with you, right? It's there are so many pieces that need to come together in order to succeed. It's the hardware and all the design, engineering, manufacturing part of it. It's the software where you actually need to think through the customer experience, what's gonna be the first use experience, right, of your product, and then further into the ongoing everyday use, how you can better understand what customers like, they don't like, what kind of data you want to be looking at. So there, and then further go into the, once again, sales marketing in order to execute, create beautiful assets, build out the websites, build out the social media, all the components that come into the this kind of consumer touch points, right, along the journey. So that's really cool. Also with these startups, one thing we see is that oftentimes startups are very limited in terms of their resources, right? So when it comes to bringing together the teams, they often tend to hire more junior people, right? And then
Mm.
sort of learn as you grow, and hence working with those guys also gives you an opportunity to sort of pass on the experience, coach them, and even because like in my position, I often join teams in the position of a fractional CMO, what I call, right? So then the power that I have is to actually then coach and grow in-house CMO, right? Where one day you sort of let go of the client, right, and they can fly and do things on their own.
Yeah, yeah, this is beautiful because honestly, when you were talking about it, I realized how violent that market is,
Oh,
and like some of these companies, like as soon as they enter the market, they get butchered. This is really, really highly competitive, and I think like there are bullets coming from all directions, and having someone like you to train them to help them dodge those bullets and move forward, it's like I think it's very, very, very important for their growth. So, do you have any experience, any success stories, some examples that stand out that you're excited about that you want to share with others?
well, yeah, I guess there are some moments that's, where along the way you can be proud of the work that you've done. I think the biggest one, um, when I thought that, okay, I've made it, was when one of the brands that I worked for, I was still on the in-house team, where our product made it to one of the Apple TV series I was actually, just watching Apple TV, and I was like, oh, hey, that's my product. I was like, what the hell? And it was not a paid opportunity. It was literally organic, meaning that, the marketing campaigns that we've built out were successful to the point that we got on the radar or some very big fish on the market, right? That they've selected
Yeah,
us to be there on screen. So that's, but and obviously it's all team effort, right? It's not a success of one person, and as I was mentioning earlier, many pieces of the puzzle need to come together in order to gain such traction and success.
yeah, absolutely. And so, what are like in your experience? What are the the common challenges that your clients face, and what is important for them to overcome those challenges and rise above the problems, basically?
Yeah. um I think one of the biggest challenges is the speed, actually, that oftentimes in startups teams tend to work on certain projects or tasks for way too long, in order
Mhm.
to get to the point when it's perfect, and then
Yeah,
they go and execute. Whereas, sometimes when you get to that point, you've wasted a month of your time in order to get it to the point where it's perfect, and only to realize that it doesn't work. Whereas you
yeah,
could, done some very high level concept, test it out through,
yeah,
surveys, and get the response that, hey, that doesn't work. One of the examples actually that I really like, that's one of the use cases we had for such experiments, was, hey, let's add a button to join, or to pay through Facebook, for example, right? So to build out it, like to add a Facebook button on the website. And it took time for the developers to do it, but we didn't know whether it's actually going to be create a certain effect that we were hoping for. So the easier way, right, instead of building out all that complex journey of actually working on that integration, the only thing the team had to do is to add a button in terms of the design, add a heat map, and see whether people click, right? And then
yeah,
based on that, understand whether, okay, if there are clicks, then let's work further on the integration. But if there are no clicks, you already saved a ton of time and money
yeah.
on the development of that functionality.
So yeah, so this reminds me of the work that I do with my clients because I can see some things in common with coaches because some of them are really like most of them are really passionate about the product, their service, and they go out into the market and they face resistance, basically rejections. And because of that, they struggle for years to find the right way to position themselves and to sell the service. And the way you fix this is with some sort of market research. I have a system, a method that I use, but as long as you get the data from the market, that already helps you a lot. And people don't understand how much time. Like I've seen people taking 2 years,
Yeah.
including myself, to be honest, to try and test things. Throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. And in those 2 years, you make zero sales or very like inconsistent sales that you're not even having a business at that point. And all that time, you could have had a lot of sales, or at least enough to get some basic income. which have allowed you to scale and grow much faster, basically. And people don't understand that it can take as little as 2 weeks or a month to do that. And that would save you literally months or years. And people, they still choose to throw spaghetti at the wall and struggle for 2 years rather than doing this. And yeah, this is super important. So I understand why you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you gotta, I think in general in everything you do, and I believe this is also what you preach, is that you don't want to spread yourself too thin, right? And I believe when you're saying throw spaghetti on the wall, this is exactly what happens, is that you want to try so many different things and see what sticks without necessarily understanding the reasons why behind it, right? And for me, why like in my case, for example, you do want to focus and you do want to prioritize, right? So in my case, for example, it is I identified that for me the strong point is the smart consumer tech, right? And primarily I further niche it down to smart home, and even further niche it down to smart kitchen, because this is where my strength is, and this is where experience is, as well as surrounding connections network that you've built out along the way. So this would also be, my advice also in the coaching industry, in the consulting, is that you don't want to consult for everybody. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm often being asked, like, so as I mentioned, right, I join teams often in a position of a fractional CMO, right? But okay, and I'm often being asked how to find one that,
Mhm.
the fractional CMO that's going to be a good fit for my business. And the answer is, it's not any CMO that's gonna fit your business, right? If a customer comes to me who's in the Web3 crypto space, you know, I won't be able to help in any way
Yeah.
whatsoever,
Yeah.
right? Just having a very basic knowledge. But obviously, if you come from that the other industry where I'm at, that would be a completely different story. And the same goes to coaching and consultant. Find your niche and focus on what you're doing best.
Yeah, absolutely. I always talk about this client that I worked with, basically, who was a general mindset coach, and he specialized into working with violinists with stage fright, so super specific. And there was also another success story from another coach. This was not a client of mine, but basically she was a life coach, and then she transitioned into working with just women. So mind coach, life coach for women, and then she transitioned into women who were dog owners. And eventually, since she had two beagles, and I don't know, they have a specific character traits, I don't know, whatever. Basically, eventually, she created this huge community online, like 15,000 people, who are women, dog owners, and beagle dog owners. So it's like
Yeah,
people think, oh my God, I can't go to niche because I can't have a big enough audience. And 15,000 people, it's a lot. Like if you know how to create a community like that, and nurture that community, give a lot, eventually that community can make you millions, like literally.
yeah,
And people are like, no, this is too niche, right? If I presented this opportunity to someone else starting out, they'd be like, no, it's like, I don't believe this is an opportunity, right? It depends. You got to do the market research to understand what exists and what doesn't, because without the market research, you don't even know if those people are out there and how many are there, right?
correct. Yeah, no, definitely true. So, and going back to pet space in general, I mean, my goodness, pet owners, they do invest. So that was a very good
Yeah,
selection.
yeah, good for her. Yeah, absolutely. And this, I think, this connects in a sense to the theme of the podcast, which is the money paradox, right? So the fact that basically, if you focus on one thing and one thing only, um, which is usually not the obvious thing, and that's why it's a paradox. Then the natural consequence of it is that you get the results that you after. So, for example, in a sales call, what I always say is, if you focus on helping the other person, it's more likely for you eventually to close calls, close clients, right? It might not be that specific call, but eventually, well, first of all, you're going to have a better time, because when you help others, you have a good time usually, if you're a coach especially. And then the other thing is that eventually you're going to get more clients doing that, because it's a natural consequence. Whereas if you focus on the money, the money paradox makes it harder for you to get the result.
Right. Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
I'd like to understand how this applies to what you do, if you've
Um,
seen anything like that.
yeah, no, definitely. One of the things that I talk about with my clients, right? Because one of the concepts that we're working on is hey, you understand the brand strategy, you work on the launch strategy, and then it's growth and scale, right? So how do you grow and how do you scale, right? So oftentimes what happens is that founders are very much money driven, right? And they want to see the results of their work. Whereas, what I preach is that, hey, let's not focus on revenue, but let's focus on delivering true customer value. Understand
Yeah,
what is it that, why do we create this product, and what is the best value that the customer can bring out of it in order to become your biggest fan, your brand ambassador, spread the word, fall in love and spread the word about your product. And with that, you will get that revenue that you're looking for. So definitely, the money, it is important, but it shouldn't be your prime focus. And
yeah,
one of the, as you were sort of leading on to it, one of the things that I thought is that when you're on sales call, not necessarily actually you want to close every sale. This is also one of the
yeah.
things that we all need to keep in mind. There's got to be a good fit between your
Mhm.
prospect clients and yourself, right? And also just because you want to deliver that greater value and make the customer happy. So you don't want to jump on any opportunity that is out there, even though it might be super appealing, and you're short on money and you want to get earn that any penny possible. But hey,
Yeah,
don't spread yourself too thin, and that time that you're going to be spending on the customer that is not a good fit for you, you could actually be spending on finding that opportunity, finding that prospect client that is a good fit, that is actually going to bring you much bigger and better returns. And in general, just your work is going to be much more valued and appreciated. And you're going to enjoy it so much more, right? If you're dealing with a customer in the space and industry that you're
yeah.
familiar with.
Yeah, this compounds all these things, they add up, and over time you get more chances, more opportunities, and more rewarding, even monetary reward, because like, to be honest, the money paradox is for me a way to make more money. It's not like I want to run away from it.
Mm,
It's just the more I think about the money, because I want to have a successful business and I want to grow it, but I want that to be a natural consequence of the work that I do, because a lot of people think, oh yeah, if I have the good marketing, the good strategy, the magic, the two-step, the sales call, the sales script, perfect script. Like, people think you can hypnotize people with a perfect script and extract them a yes, like say yes. Like, there was this movie, I don't know if you've seen it, it's very famous, with famous actor Alec Baldwin.
mhm,
Like, the movie is called Glengarry Glen Ross. It's a weird name, but it's about like this company that sells houses. Basically, it's yeah, real estate agents. And this guy comes from the big, like the city center, the firm, like the central firm, and he's coming to basically tell these people that they're not selling enough, so they're fired unless they start closing the deals. And well, that scene is very hilarious. It's very like over the top. This guy's super over the top, and he talks about the always be closing strategy, right? ABC, always be closing. And this is like, this doesn't work anymore, if it ever worked, because like you can't get sales with that strategy. It's just too much hassle. And yeah, I mean, it's a very low conversion rate. It's like,
mhm.
it's all about volumes, and you have a bad experience, and it doesn't work, for
I
most
mean,
people.
exactly. So, one of the thoughts I had is that um, it could work if you're a big corporate, right? If you're Coca-Cola and you need to be
Yeah,
doing certain sales numbers selling, cans of Coke. So you want to knock on any
yeah,
door possible in order to get that order for those cans of Coke, right? But if you're in people's business, and especially if you're, we're so your audience are coaches and consultants, it's oftentimes one person show, right? One man show. You're a
yeah.
solopreneur where I mean, we only have 24 hours in a day. There's only
Oh yeah,
the amount of energy that we have, and definitely you want to channel it to something that gives you energy back. I guess that is
Yeah.
also important, right? So that's
Yeah, absolutely.
because I did have clients where we had to part ways. It just didn't work, just because we didn't hear each other, we didn't understand each other, we had very different just work ethics, I think, as well. And this is where you just need to say sorry, but that doesn't work. Just
Yeah.
because I want to go to
Yeah.
sleep at night and actually fall asleep and not uh,
Yeah.
stress about receiving that other some extra negativity.
Yeah.
I think we have enough of.
Yeah. Yeah. And that reminds me of a conversation that I had with a prospect, and we started a call. Like, I don't even think it was a sales call. I think it was just an introductory call to meet each other. and and like I started asking questions, and every like I couldn't even finish a sentence, and she would interrupt me and correct me, and like splitting hairs on like, this is not exactly that, and it should be more like this. I couldn't even finish a sentence, and like I think I finished the second question, and she had a lot of comments. Like, it took me like 5 or 10 minutes just to get to the second question, and then after that I said, look, I'm not feeling comfortable going on with this conversation. I think we're not a great fit. And in that moment, I think it was the first time that I kind of rejected someone on a call. And in that moment, I felt good because I was aligned with my values, right? So I thought, I don't need the money. I don't need to close a client. I want to help people, and I can't at all. Like, I can't help this person. Like, this is not what I do,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, it feels good, honestly, when you're in that space of abundance, right? Coming from abundance, like, there's going to be other calls, there's going to be other opportunities that will actually be more fulfilling and
Yeah.
more rewarding for both. Like, if I had tried to close that client, even if I could have done that, which is possible, I don't know, but even if I did that, probably we wouldn't have had a great relationship, and it would have been like a lot of struggle for both of us. So I wouldn't have had any chance to help her. So eventually, I think the best decision was to tell her, I cannot help you,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think, and I honestly, from my experience, there are many people that are not comfortable saying no. So this
Yeah.
is also one of the points that's, because it takes, um, I think in many ways, it takes certain self-confidence even to say no, right? To
Oh,
understand,
yeah.
hey, this is not me. It's just that we're not a good match. So yeah, also sort of like message to the audience, right? Like, be okay to say no. Be okay to say no.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your experience, do you believe that, like, we just talked about, self-confidence, personal growth, how important is it, even for, these tech startups, to work on that, to become successful? Is it very important, do you think? Like, for them to work on their personal growth also, not just on the sales and marketing?
No, definitely self growth is important, right? But there are so many just different types of personalities, right? I think in general, if when you decide that you're a founder, especially once again in my space, right, in the smart consumer tech space, I mean, you got to have guts in order to do it. I mean, it's a lot of money that you're putting on the table in order
Yeah,
to build, a smart piece of hardware. I mean, it takes time. On average, it's around 2 years, and it's a $6 figure. Well, yeah, that you actually need to put on the table. So definitely, most of the founders they come into this space with a certain success record, right? But I think for them, what's important is to understand that they can't do it on their own. That's actually it takes a team to build it out, and this is where you need to well, yeah, to be a good, like, this is where your leadership skills, I guess, show, right? Your ability to build out that team that you can trust, and the team, like, create an environment where team actually talks to each other, where it's not where departments are not siloed, but they do communicate, and they essentially work on one thing that matters. And for every startup it's different. It's actually in my world, we talk about North Star metric, right? So
yeah,
ideally you can identify that one particular thing, that one particular metric, that number, that oftentimes is not revenue, right? But something that shows that value that
yeah,
you're bringing to the customer. um, enhance like have all the team focused on that in order to further build and grow. And I think for leadership, this is one of the most challenging what are skills to have, this people's management in order to build out a team. It's not, because there is, there, we were actually talking to, with my family the other day about how oftentimes leaders that are authoritative, they tend to be actually more successful than those that create that collaborative environment. And then we had this bigger
Yeah.
discussion over it, right? So do you want people to collaborate, or do you want, a certain authoritative leader who just tells you exactly what to do, and then you have people who execute? What works better? This is,
Yeah.
got to try and find out.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're coming to an end of our conversation today. I just want, like, for the people who are watching this and who might be interested in knowing more about you and finding, any personal profile or professional profile, do you have anything to share with us? Like, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I'm on, work under startupdials.com, so definitely go check out the website. And I'm a resident on LinkedIn, as I say, right? I'm there every day, so definitely find me there, ping me, connect, ask questions, and I'm happy to see you all there.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll also, of course, put the links in the description. So for people who want to find you, they'll find the links there. Before we wrap this, anything else we didn't talk about that you think is really important for people to know?
I think our conversation today was a lot, like we touched upon a lot of self-esteem, and I think, and self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is, people shouldn't undervalue it, and find ways to further grow and build that self-esteem and self-confidence in them, in order, this in return will help you further grow, deliver that better value to your customers, and hence,
Yeah,
solve money paradox, I guess, that you've been talking about.
absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think this is a very important key element. Like most coaches and consultants, in my experience, including myself, from time to time, in the past, but sometimes it comes back. We deal with this thing called imposter syndrome, right? So we feel like we're not good enough to who am I to help this person? Who am I to help this kind of people? This niche
Yeah.
category, whatever you want to call it, to do that thing. And I think that to some extent, there's this, again, it's a paradox, because especially people who are starting out are like, yeah, I don't have that experience. I need that experience to be able to help people. But if I don't start helping people, I don't get the experience. So it's a paradox, right? It's a chicken or egg.
Yeah.
What comes first, right? So yeah, I think like working on your own self-esteem, and on the one hand, being able to deliver, like when you offer something, it's got to be good value. Like you said, like the startups you're working with, they have to have a good product. They have to focus on that to be able to basically grow their market. But on the other hand, if they never had the guts, like you said before, also you got to have the guts to get into the market, make the big investment. And if they never did it, they'd never be there, right? If any, Steve Jobs, Microsoft, like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all these people, they probably had some insecurities, but they overcame them, and they went to market, and eventually they create something bigger than themselves. And imposter syndrome gets in the way sometimes, and we need to work on ourselves and improve that self-esteem, and be able to be like, okay, whatever, I can do this thing now, and I'm going to grow from here, but there's something I can do today.
Yeah. Keep
Awesome.
dreaming.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like one of my, like the signature in my emails, and pretty much sometimes even my public content is to your big dream, right? Because it's like you gotta have a big dream, and you gotta work on it every single day, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So it's been a real pleasure having you. Great story. Like I've had a great time talking to you about tech, and also the lessons that you brought into the coaching space for our viewers. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Marcelo.
Awesome. And everyone else, I'll see you next time.